We got let down by KRS1. That was
As in, just
really
didn't show up. Well, he didn't show up.
Oh, I'll give you the full story on that. Biggest weed farm I've ever seen. There's like literally 8 rooms, hundreds of plants. And I remember he was just getting a bit funny. And before I could even open my mouth, Tony was in there, Joel, and don't know what they said to him, but he paid up. I think a lot of people that lived outside of London just naturally travelled about. And really that started with us for b-boying. You know, we used to just want to go places and battle people.
Welcome to Writer's Pad. On today's show, I've got a very special guest who's a long-time friend of mine, but hopefully we'll avoid too much of the personal stuff. So yeah, I'd like to introduce the man like Prone.
How you doing?
How you doing?
I'm good. And how are you doing?
Good, good.
Good.
Perhaps if you could just start off by sort of giving us a little bit of a, like an introduction to the scene back in Ascot, Reading, you know, that sort of back in the days, as it were.
Been painting since about 1983. Started off just doing stuff with whatever paint I could find in the garage, and then round about sort of 85 I started getting a little bit more of a style, and 86 I was just painting like crazy.
Who else was sort of around back then at the time, you know, back in your area, like bigger than that, the names to watch out for?
Well, back then we had Pace, which was later became Metro.
Okay.
Went to the same school. He was in the year below me. We had a few people in our area that would write for maybe a few months, then you'd never see them again. It was that kind of outskirt thing that was going on, you know, you're not living in London. There was a little bit of a scene, and we realised, you know, we were just looking around, it's just us really. So I was going up to London every now and then, looking at pieces around Westbourne Park. It started early, like when I was b-boying, I used to go up Spats and stuff. But then come back and break in the Shires, you know, do my thing. So really I was going up there to learn and look at what was going on and take it and do our own thing back in the Berkshire and that, which is where we were living.
Were you part of a crew back then yourself?
Yeah, we started off as, I was in a couple of crews. Like 85 I was in a crew called Sweet Beat, which was like graph and breaking, but it wasn't very serious. But I'd say it really got serious round about early 86, late 85, when we were in a crew called the Crime Bandits, which was TCB. Again, that was Pace and his brother, and yeah, it was just a couple of us really, just painting up where we could, finding spots.
One of the things that obviously we became aware of back in those days was the Ascot Hall of Fame. Can you tell us a little bit about that for those people that never made it there?
Well, Ascot Hall of Fame was just like, it was great. It was just amazing. It was in the middle of a bit of woodland, and it was like I think it was like some kind of water place for water to run off to in the woodland. It was just really weird. It was huge. You could get inside there, and the walls are really high, and they were nice and flat. And the way we discovered it, we used to get the train up to London. We used to go painting in Bracknell, because there was a couple of places down in Bracknell we used to paint. I remember coming up to Ascot station, and you'd look to your left and see this wall, and I always used to see it and think, right, I need to go down there and put something on it.
This would be the outside wall.
That was the outside wall, yeah, the front facing wall to the tracks. And I remember I just had a couple of cans on me one day, really crap paint. I think I might have even had some rally spray, you know, for bikes, some kind of horrible metallic purple. That was it. And some greens and some rubbish colours. And I thought, let me just go down there and get something up. So I went down there, and I just did like a coloured throw up.
Right.
It weren't all that, so I didn't take a picture of it and left it.
What sort of year was this?
That was early 86. That was the first thing on Ascot, the very first thing. There was nothing on there at all.
So this is on the outside wall?
That was the outside wall. And then about a week later, there was a guy from Wokingham, called himself Rank, and he put a chrome dub just at the opposite end. So my little thing was on the right-hand side, the sort of shorter part of the wall, and his was on the longer part. And back then there was like beef between crews and stuff and that. So I just did a big piece over the top of his.
Right.
Didn't mean I had to paint a wall or anything. So I just went on there, full colour piece, like PE, spaceman character, everything. Really pleased with it. Took pictures, got up the next day, when they get the film developed, never got pictures of it. And the only person who's got pictures is a guy called Area that was in our crew. He was with me. Area was in our crew. So I've never seen pictures of it, but that was up for a day. That got bombed out by rank because I went over him. I deserved it, really. So yeah, so that was our DRS days back then. So we went from being TCB to DRS.
Okay.
So TCB was, first of all, the Crime Bandits, then it was Totally Creative Bombers, and then eventually we became DRS.
Right.
And they were like the early days. So sort of, I'd say mid-86, tail end of 86, we became, it was, I would say late 86 was DRS.
You mentioned Area and Metro, and
That's it.
They used to blow me away when I saw those pieces.
Yeah, and then Dest as well.
Dest.
He used to be called, what was he called? Shire.
Right.
He was called Shire originally.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember seeing like a Shore that was done like in the style of the Fame piece that was on Subway Art.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that kind of script style. That's the same guy, yeah?
Same guy,
Wicked.
yeah. And he's still painting now, which is good.
All right.
Yeah, Dest is still painting. So big ups to Dest. I haven't seen him in years, but
Definitely.
he's still painting. The only crew that I remember around then that's still going now was TZC.
Okay.
And I remember seeing their stuff from like 1984, very early.
Wow.
TZC was all over Aldershot and Farnborough. So that's the only crew that I knew out there back then. They were like that other crew I knew about.
Right.
And we were sort of arch enemies back then. But later on in life, we'll become friends, and they're good guys, you know.
Yeah, it's a lot of the times, like you said, it's geography that defines these sort of beefs and dramas, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So when did it actually get painted inside the Ascot Hall of Fame?
It
Do
was,
you remember?
off the top of my head, it must be sort of end of 86, early 87.
Okay.
I'd say early 87, someone decided to climb in there and start piecing. And then I went down there as well. I can't remember who did the first bit. It might have been this guy. What did he call himself? I think it might have been Crack that went in there first.
Okay.
One of them guys. Just some silvers and stuff went up, and then I did that prone piece in there with the Vaughan Bode character in the middle.
Yeah, I know that.
Did that one. That was 87, I believe. I need to go and check that.
Pastel colours, I remember the filling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was it.
Nice.
And then we did that Reborn piece, and that was me. And was that Reborn? No, Reborn was on the front. That's 86.
Right.
See my memory, bit shot away.
I mean, that was like, you know, you sort of described the layout of that place, but when I first went there, it just kind of like reminded me of like a smaller version of Unity, but like obviously without the stress of being in a city. You know,
Yeah,
it's one of
that's
the
it.
attractive things. But
And people would travel as well. Like after we kind of dominated it for a bit, and then we found this other spot. We got on the train, went to Reading, and there was a Winhurst Triangle.
okay, yeah,
Still going now. We went down there. I'd like to say we were the first people to ever piece it, but actually there was a piece there when we got down there, which had probably been done at a guess around about 85. And I think the guy that did it was a guy called Cash. He just painted straight on the concrete. He never ever put emulsion down.
bare brick.
So yeah, then we did it. We were like TCB all over the place, and then before long, everyone was painting down there.
Was there I've got a memory of, was it Tilehurst or somewhere like that? There was a car park.
Tilehurst, yeah, Gateway's car
That's
park,
the one.
which later became Asda, I believe.
Okay.
And that was legal. Massive walls, amazing place to paint. But then I think it was when Asda took over, they didn't want it.
Yeah.
And people started getting in trouble.
Walmart, see.
Yeah, there you go.
Obviously, you had a healthy scene back in your hometown, but you were still sort of travelling up to London and keeping in touch?
Yeah, not just London. I mean, I was going down to Southampton as well. They did the Beyond Graffiti Jam there, and I painted there a couple of times, and that was great. Went up to Bristol to that. Where was that place?
Barton Hill.
Barton Hill. Went up there, and I just went all over. Back then, I think a lot of people that lived outside of London just naturally travelled about, and really that started with us for b-boying. You know, we used to just want to go places and battle people.
You had your area had quite a sort of strong connection on the b-boy scene, didn't it? I know there's a few characters from out that way.
Yeah, we used to go down and practice down at a place in Camberley, like the squash courts and that, in the leisure centre, and there was a crew there called GMC. Okay. And they were ridiculous. I mean, Peter Edwards back in the day was like...
That's the name I remember.
Oh my gosh, you go down Spats. We used to go down Spats with them. As Peter took us down there the first time, took us down Ballroom as well. You see him doing that head spin, like no one had those back then.
Was Wayne dancing back then as well?
Yeah, he was. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was in what were they called? I think they were called Sudden Impact or something. And yeah, he was dancing back then, and he carried on quite late.
That's right. Yeah, I think he went on to. He was part of Children of the Monkey Basket.
That's right. Yeah, I got him out of retirement.
Did you really?
Yeah, when I started doing the breaks and that in Reading.
Was he only ever sort of on the b-boy front, or was he involved in the graffiti?
He did a bit of graph. I went over one of his pieces once. I was with a guy called Dark 13 who's still painting.
Well, I know that name as well.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. He's from Reading,
Right.
and he's painting again, and he's doing some good pieces. So big shouts to Dark. But
What about Wrench and React? Are they from over that way as well?
they are, but I don't know
Something
what
like
they're doing. I think Wrench is getting into his music big time.
Yeah.
As far as I know, but
React is he's still painting.
oh, that's good.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, Dark said to me, "Oh, go over that piece. Wayne's done that. He absolutely hates it. So you may as well just go over it." And I remember I went over it, and Wayne wasn't happy. He just went straight over my piece, and then we just chatted. I said, "I'm sorry, mate." But he used to paint. I think he wrote Arcade or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But we always got on. He was always cool.
You've got sort of other skills, in your repertoire, as it were. When did the music thing sort of become apparent? Was that just a natural progression from being a writer? Or?
I started, like I say, I got into b-boying and graph around about 83. It was a year later I decided I wanted to learn to scratch and be a DJ and stuff, and I had a couple of terrible BSR decks with no
Belt
mixer.
drives?
Yeah, no, they weren't. They were just solid state, not solid, what do you call it, direct drive, and ceramic needles. So I was buggering up all my records, and I was using the volume to scratch, because I didn't have a mixer. And then I did eventually get my first mixer, and it was a mic mixer, so it only had ups, and it didn't even have a headphone socket.
Yeah.
So I learned on that, and then finally I got the classic clicky mixer from Tandy's.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had one of those realistics.
Oh, no, the ones. Yeah.
Great mixer.
Yeah.
Back then.
Obviously, percussion's another one of your.
Yeah, that was it. I mean,
follow
I really got into collecting breaks, massively into collecting breaks very early on. There's that book, I think it's just called Rap.
Yeah.
Came out.
Yeah.
I remember reading in there about breaks. Pace had a copy of it, and there was something in there about breaks. And that's when I started looking for breaks in my mum's collection, and I found like the Quiller break and Live Birds break and all that. And I was like, okay, finding my own breaks. So then I was just going all over the place looking for breaks, and there was some great shops back then, and you'd find anything outside of London was cheap.
Yeah.
And they had stuff, so I used to travel everywhere. And that's funny, that's how I met Mark B.
Okay.
Because he was a digger as well, and he lived in Basingstoke. So we crossed paths a few times, and then we started. Was it Basingstoke he was living in? I can't remember if it was Basingstoke or Addlestone. It was somewhere like that.
Right.
But anyway, he used to drive up to my house in his Ford Sierra,
Nice.
and we used to trade names and stuff, swap stuff.
Wasn't it Cosworth, was it?
I don't know. I just know it's falling to bits.
That's the big boy's car.
Yeah. But he always used to joke with me, like, occasionally you'd find records that were crap, and you think they got breaks on because there's a drummer on the front. And I had this really bad Idris Muhammad album, and I used to block the light out of my room with it, and he always used to joke about that. So yeah.
Used as a curtain.
So yeah, back then we was always digging, and from digging I got into looping my stuff up, and then I had an Amiga, and I started sampling on that. And then from there, it took off. I got a 950, then I moved on to MPC. I was doing a load of hip hop stuff, and then got into a soul band, which was good fun. They're called
What
As
sort
Is.
of time was this?
Well, I guess the looping stuff started straight away. That was just on tape.
Right.
So
that like pause button tapes
pause
or
button
whatever?
stuff, and then sort of mid-90s I had an Amiga, and I was using that, and that was like 8-bit.
Right.
Yeah, it was good fun. And then I went on to the 950 and then MPC. I've always stuck with MPC. I love MPCs. I've had about 5 different ones now, but I just like the way they work.
Okay.
So yeah, sampling, and then Latin percussion really was off the back of Incredible Bongo Band.
Okay.
I just always got hooked on bongos and stuff. So around about early 90s, 91 I started playing percussion, and now I've done so many recordings. I've done a lot of session work. I've got a lot of credits on my name now, albums, singles, played for Function.
Anything we'd know of?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I was in a band called Function, and we were playing all over the place. We played out in Europe. We were playing the Jazz Cafe regularly. We had a few albums. We had 2 albums out. One was on vinyl. The second one, the first one was CD only. Lots of 45s. And as with a lot of big bands, you've got a lot of people, and it's quite hard to keep it running. So in the end, we just sort of fizzled. And Function really now is just Mike. And Mike is the drummer, but he's a multi-instrumentalist, so he's still doing stuff. And now I'm doing a lot of soul stuff with my wife as well.
When did you sort of come up with the idea to do the breaks? Because that was a club that I was always very impressed with.
This was round about 98. I just thought to myself, there's no hip-hop nights in Reading. I was living in Reading, and if ever there was anything hip-hop, it would be Westwood coming down and playing in this horrible club. What was it called? I don't even remember what it was. It might be New Valbonne or something in Reading, where you had to dress up. You had to wear a shirt and shoes and all that nonsense. So you couldn't even be comfortable to go and listen to hip-hop, and he wasn't playing hip-hop. Just sort of R&B and kind of...
Oh, back there, yeah.
Yeah, it was just... It weren't good, you know. So I thought to myself, well, why shouldn't I do something about it? And why shouldn't I do it properly?
Definitely.
And I'd started breaking again, and I thought, well, no one's breaking in Reading. It's just Wayne. So I got together with him, and then I pulled Timmy out of retirement, and Timmy used to dance with a crew called SAS back in the day in Reading. And yeah, he could still dance, so pulled him out of retirement as well, put this night on, and we just wanted to incorporate all elements that we could. So it wasn't just hip-hop, we were playing all the breaks as well. And then we had graph in the background, we had b-boying, and yeah, eventually we did have some beatboxing as well. And I used to do an open mic, and
basically all elements.
Yeah, that was it. And Maestro used to come down a lot, and he used to police that for us.
Okay.
The open mic, and he used to get up and freestyle, but then he'd police it. So that was quite good. So we had a bit of control.
Yeah.
And then we even hooked up once with Vestax and did, it was like an open turntable room.
All right.
And that was upstairs. So DJs were just queuing up with their battle breaks and trying out all the new stuff.
Nice idea.
That was a one-off, but that was good.
I know, I painted at one, didn't I?
You did,
I
yeah.
Shade. Was that a live painting?
We had a few people paint. You painted, Ref painted.
I mean, the thing I was always impressed with the breaks was just the way it was like, you know, you encapsulated everything that I regarded as hip-hop. You know, the live painting, I think it was live painting.
Yeah, we get someone to paint just before the show would start.
Was that a format that I mean, it's kind of a bit of a, you know, not hard to work it out, but was it something you had in mind anyway, or did you go to other nights and feel that?
No, I just thought I wanted to do it different. I found that what they would call a hip hop night in Reading was a joke. I thought, let's just go all in. Let's just do something completely different. I never was a promoter. I was always a DJ. I'd employ myself as a DJ there as well.
Right.
You know, but I thought, let's just do it. Let's not talk about it. Let's do something about this mess. It was a mess. There was nowhere to go out.
You brought some pretty big names through as well, from what I remember.
Yeah, we did good. We had some great people play. I'm trying to remember now. We had Jurassic 5.
Souls of Mischief.
Company Flow.
Mystic Journeymen. No, not Mystic Journeymen.
Oh.
Not Tom and Corey.
The Rascals.
Oh, Rascals, yeah.
Man, they were great. They were good live.
The people that were doing things were people that knew how to do things, if that makes sense, rather than, like you said, it wasn't just promoters latching onto a new concept. Like, you know, you said yourself, you're not a promoter, but
I paid everyone as well. That was the thing. I paid everyone. And some nights I did there, I'd budget it before I did the shows. So there'd be like the posters, the flyers, and then obviously you've got to pay people that are taking money at the till, someone who's taking the coats. Then the actual venues charged a lot. That was the thing. They charged a lot. Then they charged separately for security. And at the end of the night, you could have a full club and you walk around with £10 profit. In fact, when we did Company Flow, we went over with the amount of people that came in. It was so rammed in there. and I walked away with a £25 loss, you know, and it's like, how did that happen?
And everyone got paid.
Until,
as in
because I paid everyone. But the amount of times I've been out as a DJ and you get the excuse like, oh, well, we didn't do too well tonight.
Yeah.
Well, so hang on, I've done my job, why didn't do yours?
Yeah.
You know, and that happened once. I played at the end, and the promoter there gave it, oh, well, I didn't do too well tonight.
That's the club that was owned by, who owned that club? It was someone from a band, wasn't it? I can't remember who it was. Andy?
Mr. C, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I played there, and this guy, he hired us all to play there. There was like Scratch Perverts were there, MK was there, and I remember he was just getting a bit funny. And before I could even open my mouth, Tony was in there, Joel, and don't know what they said to him, but he paid up straight away.
I can imagine.
I thought, that's good. Yeah.
Shout out to the Scratch Perverts.
Yeah, good guys, man. I had them as residents for quite a while as well when we used to do the breaks.
Okay.
Yeah, they were great.
When did Dedbeat become a thing, the Dedbeat Weekender? Because that was another thing I remember.
Yeah, the thing with Dedbeat was there's a guy called Sam who was like the brains behind it. There was another dude called Matt Carter in Reading who ran a big house night as well. And they both put their heads together and said, we want to do this this weekender, but do it a bit different. And Sam approached me and said, look, we need you. We want to do hip hop there. We want it in the main room rather than in a small room. And we want funk and stuff. And I said, well, great, I've got all the contacts. So for the first two, I was an organiser. Okay. People didn't know I was an organiser because whenever press and stuff went out, it was just Sam and Matt. Oh, right. But it was myself and this ex-partner of mine as well. We were actually promoters as well. Amma, that was her name, yeah. So she was promoting as well. But by about the third one, I took a bit of a back seat on the promoting, but I was still actively involved because at all of them I was like resident DJ. So I was getting to play between some of the most amazing acts, warm up for them.
Tell the people
some
of the names you had there.
We had Dougie Fresh, Bismarcky, God rest his soul. We had
Kane.
Big Daddy Kane. We had Farside. We had loads of people. Yeah. It just goes on and on. Ty, of course. Some great UK acts as well. It
was an amazing.
Gwen McRae. We got let down by KRS1. That was
as in just
really
didn't show up. We didn't show up.
Oh, I'll give you the full story on that.
Please do. Here we go, exclusive.
Yeah. Well, we had him booked as the headline act to finish. It was maybe the second or third Dedbeat. Right. And literally 5 days before, his management called us and said, Chris ain't going to be able to fly. And then bearing in mind, we were a grassroots event. We didn't have Coca-Cola signs everywhere or whatever. So everything was budgeted on the tickets, and that was it. You know, and they were cheap enough as it was. Yeah. So we'd gone and got in business class because he insisted on it. Virgin business class, bought the tickets. Ain't cheap, but we got them. Okay, it's a headline act. So we said, well, look, he's got to come. He's our headline. You know, this is 5 days before the event. And we've been advertising this for 6 months. And they were just like, well, you're going to have to put them on the QE2. So
not the Titanic.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I thought, that's ridiculous. You know, what is this? This guy who's representing the street being
and
put
who's
on
real hip hop.
Yeah, being put on the QE2. So we can't manage that, and it goes against what we're about. And they said, well, we'll call you back in a couple of days. Didn't call us back, and it was literally 2 days before the event. We rang him back. Chris has given you the right hook. And bearing in mind, we paid half of his fees up front. Yeah. Never saw them again. So from then on, I knew what he was like. And then, of course, when all that Bambata stuff happened, I thought, okay, everyone else knows what he's like now.
Wow.
Rotten man.
Wow.
Shame, because I loved his music.
Yeah. And, well, you know, a lot of these old legends are turning out to be a little bit dubious, shall we say?
But I thought I'd put it out there. Sam didn't want to say. Sam is a decent guy. He didn't want to say, but I remember saying it now. Yes.
One thing I do remember from there, which you know, I don't know if it was your side or whether it was somebody else was running it, but the pool party. There was a pool party there one year.
Oh yeah.
I remember. I think it was Maestro or somebody that were performing in the pool.
Oh really? I never saw that.
Were you not at that bit?
I would have.
It was unbelievable.
I would have been in there.
Yeah, it was part of the weekend, but because I mean, obviously the thing is, as well, people need to realise that, you know, you bought a ticket and you stayed there for the weekend.
Amazing.
Chalet, wasn't it?
Those are amazing events.
from what you said, it sounds like you guys did it the right way in terms of.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's got any bad memories about that jam because it was there was a few. They were big, they were amazing, and that's it.
Yeah, Ugly Duckling played. They were great, and they're great guys. I've kept in contact with them. They're lovely guys. You know, I speak to Andy now and then. He's cool, real cool guy.
In more recent years, people might recognise you if they've happened to channel surf through Channel 5 or...
Oh, Love Island, of course. No, it's not that one.
90 Day Fiancé, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, what have I got myself into?
No, I mean, perhaps
I've
you'd like to enlighten us.
I've done a few. Slum Landlords and Nightmare Tenants.
the one.
I've been on about 13 episodes of that. People do recognise me occasionally.
But yeah, I mean, this guy, not only is he a writer and a club promoter and a percussionist, a DJ, but he's also a media celebrity, as you've said. Any other TV appearances we can expect?
I did something with Jeremy Kyle called the Kyle Files, and he followed me around while I was doing my visits.
Did it get aired?
Inspections. Yeah, it went out. Yeah, that went out, and that was fun. He was all right actually. Off camera, he was okay. He just gets a bit emotional, but it was good. He was a decent dude. He felt bad.
Really?
What the sort of stuff he saw, what I was showing him, he was like, my gosh, I actually feel guilty for having a nice house and living in a nice area, It was a bit of an eye-opener for him.
Can you share like one of your worst experiences on the actual Channel 5 show?
There's a classic one where we raided a 3-bed and there was 40 people in there. He literally, every single room.
40?
40. Mattress, nowhere to walk, just sea of mattresses in every single room.
3-bed?
In a 3-bed, one toilet, and nothing in the fridge. And what we worked out, there was a guy he'd rented it out as a family, and he was employing people, bringing people over to work in a car wash and do other sorts of work, and he was charging them to live there. This was the day shift.
God.
And then they'd go out to work and the night shift would come in. So they were like literally renting beds. And I think they were all paying about £60 a week. So he was making a mint, that dude. We shut that one down. Another time there was a suspected HMO above a pub, and we couldn't get in. And normally our locksmiths can do it in like 5 minutes. And I get the old grinder out, thinking, what the heck's going on? Got through the first door. And I was like, okay, there's compost there. I know what this is going to be. So I went up. Of course, biggest weed farm I've ever seen. There's like literally 8 rooms, hundreds of plants, and the electrics were just like, I was scared when I was in there. The electrics were appalling. They'd gone straight into the national grid.
Really?
Yeah, they bypassed the meter, and there was just so many kind of extension sockets and stuff. And the worst thing about it was children's clothing. There was kids running it.
Really?
Yeah, and I think they were Vietnamese, because there was all little timings and stuff written in card. And I saw that and I thought, man, people probably don't know about these kids. They're probably, not supposed to be there anyway in the UK.
Yeah.
And they just lock them in, they feed them, they send them food and stuff.
Wow.
But yeah, I've seen some stuff, and some houses you walk in, you need to wipe your feet on the way out. It's that bad.
How did you get into that? Like, how did that come about?
I wanted to work in environmental health. And first of all, I was just doing nuisance stuff. So, people complaining about noise. And of course, I've done nightclubs and stuff. So I'm a reasoner. I split up fights, arguments. I try and level it out.
Yeah.
I'm good at doing that usually. So that job was ideal. So I'd do night shift, I'd go out. I'll be the one shutting the party down, but I'd do it in the nicest possible way and say, well, look, what do you know about music? Well, I know a lot about music. Then I'd start telling them, I've done stuff, but listen, mate, you've got to comply with the law or they're going to nick your stuff. Usually that would work.
Yeah.
But then I got from nuisance, I thought, well, I'm going to look into housing. And I got into the housing side, private housing. And one thing I can't stand is like nasty landlords. And they are a minority, but there's still too many around and people are getting ripped off and their lives are at risk. So I got into it for that reason, because I give a damn.
Getting back onto the sort of graffiti.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've been involved in so many different things. I assume that had to take a back seat at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I was really active till about 94, and that's the problem. When you do so many things, you can't really be a master at all of them. So I was getting so involved with music in 94 but the graph just kind of faded off. And I do the odd commission or kids' workshop once in a while, but I wasn't painting for myself, and I hadn't painted in years. Just started doing one or two things. Painted today, hence all the paint on my hands. Good fun. Missing it.
How do you find it compares? You know, obviously you left mid-90s and we're now, what, in the early sort of 21s?
Very different. It's back then, you like, especially the 80s, you used whatever paint you could find. You found whatever caps you could find. You know, you'd be taking stuff off hairspray or whatever. Now we live in a world where paint is made especially for graph, and so are caps, and everything is perfect. So it's so easy. Whereas I'm having to adjust to an easier way to paint. I'm still kind of doing stuff fast, thinking it's going to drip.
Older heads that I've spoken to, you know, through doing these and just generally catching up with people, like they all say the same.
Yeah.
I remember when Scam came back out, shout out to Scam, but like,
Big up Scam.
Definitely, but he said exactly the same. And I remember painting with him, and Ken Swift, believe it or not, you yourself helped out a few times with the projects that I've been involved
That's right, yeah.
But one of them, Ken Swift, was a guest, and we got him to paint, and he said exactly the same. He was like outlining, you know, like this. I was like, no, you don't need to do that, man. You can just go like that.
Nice now. Yeah, I love it.
What sort of paint did you use back in the day, the brands you can remember?
When I could get bunt lack, it'd be bunt lack. I was using hobby lack, as we called it back then, Belton.
Yeah.
Great paint. Duplicolour, it was all right for fades and backgrounds, but you needed to stand there a year, and by the end of it, your fingers fell off, or they froze when you're out in the cold. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'd use that. There was a paint called U paint that was around. I used to love the pillar box red. That was a lovely paint. And then Hammerite Smooth Right, used to use that all the time as well. That was a nice outline paint.
Did you ever use Homestyle?
Yeah, occasionally, yeah. Still got some.
That was good stuff.
Yeah, that was good stuff. Yeah, and now, totally different. I like it though.
Do you get the same sort of feeling sort of painting now as you did back then? Or, you know, everything's moved on so much. I'm always curious to know from an older guy coming back into the scene what it sort of feels like to get out there and do it.
It's very, very different now. Back in the day, I felt that we were front running what we were doing. We were doing stuff and people were copying us, and we were finding new sites. We were kind of like setting the scene in our areas. We were really, you know, out there. Trend setting, if you like. And now I'm just like, well, I'm some dude that's picked the can up again. I'm just doing it for myself. There's no other reason I like it. It's good fun. I'm not competing with anyone. Back then it was all competition. Yeah. You know? And it's funny, I did used to paint in London a little bit as well, because I ended up joining a London crew. I was in all World Expertz.
That's right, yeah.
Big shouts to Czech.
Definitely.
Yeah, who invited me in and that. So, yeah, they were good days.
Did you meet the other guys like Rent, Renew and any of those sort of guys?
Yeah, one or two of them. Keane, obviously, he was around a lot. I think I met Pusher once. But no, it was really Czech, or KCD as I used to know him as originally. So more of the time it was Czech. I painted with him a couple of times, and good guy.
He's one of those sort of mysterious figures from the past, isn't he?
Yeah.
Which you had to be privileged to kind of know about him.
Yeah, he kept himself to himself. He'd go out and paint. Lovely guy. Still lives, I think he still lives in Upminster. That's where he used to live.
Probably in the yard.
Yeah, you know. But yeah, I don't think it's been too well lately.
No, I heard. I think Keane actually set up an Instagram page for him, just to sort of encourage him.
Keane was like, get some pictures to me, any AWE stuff. So whatever I've been able to find, I've been sending in. I found some 27 trains and that. I've been sending those over. 27 was badass.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I liked him.
Yeah. Was that? I get confused. Is that Redeem? Or
Redeem,
is that, Redeem.
Yeah, he was ahead of his time.
Right.
Yeah, I really liked him.
I remember years ago, like when I lived over Putney way, Redeem and Code, I think it was, they did like vertical pieces on Putney Bridge Station.
Right.
Where it was like, at that point, no one had done any, well, maybe in other stations, but certainly not over that side. You know.
Yeah.
Like, one had a black outline and I think one had a red outline, both chromes, but they were like amazing. And the style was just like...
Yeah, they were really on it. Code as well, yeah, real good.
He was ACR as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I think he still paints actually.
Well, that's good to know.
I mean, I speaking as an old writer myself, same sort of generation as yourself. Personally, I find, and I'm sure you probably agree, the scene nowadays it's so much better for people of our generation because it's relaxed. We can go to like the spot we did today. You
That's
can
right.
go there.
Yeah.
People are talking to you. You know.
Yeah, it's nice. It's accepted now. Back then, it wasn't accepted. Didn't matter how good your art was. People were like, oh, it's criminal. Now it's more accepted.
Definitely.
And of course, you have got street art as well, which is it's not the same, but you either like that or you don't.
Yeah,
but
that's
kind of helped in a way.
Yeah,
Make
definitely
it acceptable.
We're both from a generation where Ladbroke Grove, the pit, that was like the be all and end all.
That's right.
And I don't know if you've been down that area recently, but that's
can't afford to go down that area.
Well, exactly, regeneration and all the stuff that they're doing around. Same with 5 Points in New York.
It's happening in Brixton too.
Right.
It's just gentrification, pushing people out that have lived there for generations, can't afford to live there anymore. Got plenty of graft there, makes the area trendy. It's happening in Birmingham as well. There's a place in Birmingham, same sort of thing's happening.
Is that Dedbeat?
Yeah, that's it. It's beginning to happen there as well.
Custard factory.
It's nice, but try and afford to live around there if you're on a low wage.
I did a workshop up in just outside Cambridge, not long after I'd moved up there. So we're probably talking like early 2000s. And this area was being regenerated, they had hoardings up and stuff. So the local community people got me in to do like a workshop with some local kids. And we did this piece, I think it said just do it. Couldn't think of anything to do on the time.
Right.
Just do it. It's better than a cannabis leaf. Yeah. So we did this piece and like everything was great. And there's these houses, quite posh houses that have been put up like just across the way there. And some woman came over, like literally shrieking and screaming and having a right old go. And like the work we'd done was half decent,
Yeah.
It was a kid's thing, but the whole problem was she'd moved from London to get away from this scourge of graffiti, and she'd moved up to this little place outside Cambridge, and lo and behold, across the road, there's some guys doing a graffiti piece.
Oh, beautiful.
I kind of relished it.
That's funny. I like that. That's a wonderful story, that is.
I'll never forget that. But that, the point is the fact that like some of these areas, if you take away the graffiti and the kind of cultural scene surrounding those areas, they're bland. There's nothing,
No, that's right. Yeah,
it raises the value of these places.
Yeah, and I mean back in the day, we used to quite like painting derelict sites as well. Less trouble, good place to practice.
Definitely.
And people still see it. People get to know those sites.
You kind of hinted on something there because we went into derelict areas, or we got boards in our back garden and we practiced.
Yeah.
We refined our skills before we went out onto the street at the Hall of Fame or the legal spot or whatever it was to do, Whereas now, I mean, you were with me earlier this morning, and I'm sure you'll agree that some of the pieces that you see in these sort of legit Hall of Fame spots, I mean, Hall of Fame is a bit of a term which probably shouldn't be used because you're talking like trackside dubs.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But I guess, that's just the way it is. So, I mean, what, in terms of the future, obviously we've covered a bit of your history and where you've got to get to where you are now.
Yeah.
What are your plans for the future? Because I believe you've got some big things coming up.
Yeah, well, obviously I got married. And
congratulations.
Thank you very much. My wife, she's a soul singer out in California, and she's done very well. She's a film director as well. Wow. And runs a few companies. So I'm very much getting involved in helping her with that as well. I've even done a spot of acting. That'll be out in January. So you can either laugh, throw tomatoes at me. Yeah, it's like a series.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can throw tomatoes at me.
Brilliant. Again.
Yeah. And I've got a Kangol on, so, Okay. So I've done a bit of that, but, long-term plan is I will be out there.
Yeah, I was going to say, how does that work in terms of you and her being so far away,
The way I look at it is you get people who get married to someone that's in the forces, and that guy or woman goes away for a year, months on end. It's no different to that. But when you finally find that person, it don't matter where they live. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Because I was kind of ready to say, hey, you know what? I can't be bothered with anybody. I'm just going to do my thing. And then I'd known her for years.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was playing her music for years. That's another thing I do. I do 2 radio shows.
That's right, yeah. We haven't even
touched that, I was playing her music on one of my shows for years on end. She'd be sending me music, and we would just knowing each other on a professional level, and that was it. Then we started working on music, and before we know it, we're married.
Wow.
So yeah, so big shouts to Gina Sedman.
Potentially in the future, we could see you relocating.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I plan to go out there, but let's see. The world's a bit messed up at the moment.
Yep.
We don't know what will happen next. She may even end up here, but whatever happens, we'll be together.
Brilliant.
So that's it, and be doing our work together as well. So we're working on more music together with her as well.
And you mentioned briefly then about your radio show. I mean, that's something we haven't discussed.
Yeah, that's it. I've been doing Gold Dust Radio about 8 or 9 years now, and they're based in Reading. They're an internet radio station. I do a show called The Vinyl Destination, and it's all vinyl, of course, and most of it is soul, funk, breaks and stuff, and then the last half hour I always do hip hop. It's like the ingredients, and then with the finished product. It's kind of like that. It's a bit like what the breaks was, same sort of idea. And then I do another show on a station which Gina set up, which I now run. It's called Indie Soul Radio, and we play a lot of modern artists, like new soul artists, because you don't see much new independent soul getting played on the radio. It's or neo soul, you get a little bit of that, but you just get R&B kind of stuff, which is not the same.
So how could people access those in terms of?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
There you
so
go.
I can pitch it now.
Pitch away.
Let's do it. indiesoulradio.com. Do a show on there called The Mixed Bag Show, and that's 8 till 10 on a Friday night. And then Gina does a gospel show as well on a Sunday, which is at 4 o'clock. And
afternoon, I presume.
4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's early back there, but yeah, she does that. And that's called The Glorious Groove Show. And then on a Sunday, I still do my Gold Dust show, Vinyl Destination.
How long have you been doing that?
8 or 9 years on that, yeah. And that's golddustradio.com. And I have guests on some of the shows. I've had some big guests over the years, mainly on Indie Soul, and got some more coming up as well.
Speaking of big guests, I did hear a rumour somewhere about you doing a sort of collaboration with popular female American artist, Shire, was it? Sometime?
Shire. Oh yeah, she's.
Am I right?
Yeah,
did you feature on one of her tracks?
I did. Yeah, I taught her how to do autotune.
Can you demonstrate? I mean, can we know a bit more about
this? This is called Poor Man's Autotune. You don't need any money for this, right? You don't need to buy plugins. So if you've got Logic or Pro Tools, you don't need it.
Are we about to see a world exclusive?
You're going to see this, so I take it from me. Do you believe in life after love?
And there you have it, you see. Who knew?
That's free.
I mean, that's free. Yeah. You can have that gratis. And I mean, I'm sure you've all heard that tune. Did you know that this guy was behind that tune?
That's it,
I doubt it.
I wasn't really, but
we've known each other for some time. I can't remember exactly when we first connected. I know it was probably in the southwest when I was down there. But
yeah, I remember it. I was painting in Reading. I actually remember the day.
Did you meet Scarce or something like that?
There's a guy from my school a couple of years below me. He wasn't really seriously into graph. He was a little bit. He's called Stephen Kellett.
Yeah.
Stephen Kellett. And he was like, I know these guys down in Exeter. You need to check their stuff. And somehow got your address. I think someone else as well. Scarce as well.
Box, was it?
Yeah, it was actually.
No, I told my nan to get rid of those.
Some card with a picture, but anyway, it's well drawn. It was Scarce. Yeah, Scarce as well. And we were just swapping pictures all the time. That's right. Like you used to do back in the day. And I saw that there was a decent little scene going on down by where you were.
Pre-internet, pre-mobile phone.
That's right,
pre-all of that.
Pre-all of that. And then I ended up coming down doing a little painting down there with you, didn't I?
That's right, I remember that.
And yeah, that was great.
And then in terms of like the b-boy scene, because obviously that was down in the southwest, and I moved back into London, I think in '91, I think it must have been. And the whole sort of Sinstars thing started up around about that time as well, which you are part of yourself. Yeah. Can you remember how that kind of came about?
Well, yeah, I remember round about that time you was painting a lot. Dref was painting with you guys quite a bit as well. And I was in a crew with Dref. And that was SNC, which was like, I was in DRS and SNC, and I left DRS when I got into AWE. So Syncruise formed, And of course, I still knew you. We were still painting and stuff. And really, I think when the breaking started making a comeback, around about sort of 97, I just knew Junk quite well from Second to None and that, and Acer. And I'd known them for quite a few years, just over the years, really through Graph. So I was doing the picture swapping with Junk and that, and I used to go down there in sort of 1990, 91 with this guy Richard from Woking, who was also a breaker, Richard Nottick. And we used to go down there and watch them break and be like, wow, people breaking in 91, and I hadn't seen it in years. I gave up in like end of 86, and to know there was people still breaking. And then I was part of a jam, which actually I did with Jazz T and some members of Star Point, and that was at Farnborough Leisure Centre in 1991. That was called Intelligence, and I gave Junk a call, and he said, yeah, we'll come up. And no one was expecting it. The whole crew came up, and it was like, they were just on form. We hadn't seen nothing like it. Just remember, these guys come out and started doing all this new jacking, and then they were out, and you didn't see those guys again.
Tore them apart.
Yeah, they did. Limb from limb.
Yeah.
It was great, and, it wasn't till 97, end of 97, I thought, you know what, I'm going to break again. I want to get fit.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same reason I started.
And it was fun. But I could never dance the way I used to. Body had changed, and I was always getting injuries. But I enjoyed it. It didn't matter.
Another memory, now we're touching on the Sinstars stuff, was the night at Scratch. I think we did a promo night there, didn't we?
Yeah, that's right.
Were you DJing? I know you were dancing, but
I was dancing at that one at Scratch. Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let me on the decks at Scratch.
Well, no.
No, I didn't ask.
No, that was a good night because it was like the first time we kind of showcased the people that we were rolling with who perhaps weren't known about.
Yeah,
we had like Drew there from Foundations.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, they were good. They were good events, and then you did the anniversary at the Tabernacle as well.
Oh God, I forgot about that. That was actually the launch of the website, which never was.
It never was.
Do you know what happened about that?
No, I don't.
It's an interesting story, very quickly, but basically we were launching syncrew.co.uk at the time, but there was some sort of ownership issue. Shock One had the rights to the name or something. I can't remember exactly what it was, and he was out of the country.
Right.
And we needed his permission to be able to do something with this name. But in the time that we were waiting to get the permission, another group bought the domain name.
Oh, really?
I don't think it had been solidified. And you know what it turned into? Bearing in mind, Syncrew was set up to do cultural workshops with the youth and the community. Somebody bought that domain name and changed it into an adult porn site. Whether it was sabotage, I don't know.
Wow.
But it's like, to this day, I don't know if somebody tried to sabotage us. But
Well, that's the excuse you give.
Yeah, no, seriously.
No,
and
that's
when
really
I actually,
it's your site.
Well, I actually had to write to them.
Wow.
I had to write to them and say, email them or whatever, and say, look, we are a community group working with young people in the community and schools and colleges and this, that, and the other. You've taken our name and you're putting it out as a porn site. This is not acceptable. Yeah. They kind of ummed and ahed and all the rest of it, but they basically agreed to change the site, and then it turned into a Friends Reunited website. That's why. No, it's syncrew.com.
Right.
Because it is actually, the site now is .co.uk. Back then we were trying to get .com.
That's right. Yeah.
And that Tabernacle was. But the thing is, the Tabernacle was to launch that site, which never was. So the whole thing. We had Maestro there, didn't we?
That's right.
There was a load of heads there that time.
Yeah, it was good.
But yeah, I mean, you've been an integral part of all things to do with that.
Yeah, that's it. It was just doing the workshops was good as well. Cambridge
the
and
hip hop week thing.
Yeah, that was nice as well. So
it was good times,
I think I kind of slid into Syncrew, didn't I? It was never a formal thing. I didn't get a bottle smashed over my head. It was just like
I think most people did slide into it.
Yeah.
Some slid out.
Yeah, that's it. Where are we going?
And some are still going.
Yeah.
Shout out to Syncrew.
Yeah, big ups to Syncrew.
And obviously Sinstars.
And Sinstars, yeah.
So yeah, we pretty much touched, quite a lot here, I feel. So is there anything you'd like to say as a parting gesture, words of encouragement for any professionals out there?
A comb.
A comb, like that.
Yeah.
By the way, this guy's also a stand-up comedian on weekends, especially Saturdays.
I've not got any gigs yet.
No, I mean, if there's anybody out there who's up and coming and wanting to get into one of the various different worlds that you cohabit, what could you say to them?
Well, I say just be yourself. honest about things. Like if you're a musician, don't try and make music for someone else, make it for yourself. If you like it yourself, someone else is going to like it. Apply that to your art as well, apply it to everything, just be yourself.
And I'd have to come in as well and say, don't be afraid to be in the background, because I know
I've always been in the background. I've been on this scene for years. You know, I've always been part of the scene, but I've always been in the background. I've always been there. You know.
You have it. You know,
Yeah.
your day will come.
I was down at Spats. I wasn't in the middle of the floor though.
You were in the
there,
background.
You know.
Was there a lady involved, or was it just you in the background?
Just me in the background.
Oh, cool. No, it's been a pleasure, and
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Like I say, we'll make sure that we put all the relevant links to Prone's socials and his radio stations and all the other worlds that he inhabits. But like I said, keep your eye on Channel 5, because you never know, you might see this guy, best dressed environmental officer with the V-stitch goose, Kangol. He's going to get some gazelles because he ain't got them yet. But
I got 3 pairs.
Oh, well, put them on, man. No, we look forward to seeing you, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.